Today we have a lot of people who are charging for spiritual healing, spiritual advice, and counseling. I think it's pretty important that we consider the significance that money plays in our interactions with other people. And especially this is important when it comes to so-called spiritual healings, advice, counseling, things like that. Now, I'm pretty much against it. I think that when people charge for this sort of thing, they create a conflict of interest. They're trying to make money off of your suffering, and that's fundamentally in conflict with the nature of spiritual healing. One of the ideas that I think is pretty important to consider is that in personal spiritual development, one of the purposes that we have is to come out of self-interest. I'm talking about like ego self-interest. This by this I don't mean to say that you're gonna stop feeding yourself and getting the sleep that you need and taking care of your health, things like that. I think that we have to look at the history to determine whether or not we want to associate with these businesses, these organizations, these people that charge for their spiritual healing, spiritual advice, and spiritual services. Let's look at Jesus. It would be absurd to say that he charged for his ministry, for his teachings. This is true for just general speeches that he gave, the sermons, as well as the healings that he gave, like the blind woman, restoring the eyesight, or other instances. How about other figures, such as Buddha? It was totally out of the question for him to accept any money for what he did. I mean, he became a monk, and one of the foundational ideas of renunciation is that you give up money. But it's not just like a blind rule, you just give up money and you struggle through it. No, he wanted to help people, teach something, show something, some kind of truth, something that was so important to him that to put a price on him was devaluing what he had to offer. For 45 years, he traveled around India, preaching, sharing the path to enlightenment. If we just look at the Christian saints, I can't think of one example where a Christian saint would request for a donation before they would give you a certain teaching or a certain healing or advice. Another example is Bruno Groening. This guy, he gave mass healings from a balcony of a house, and people would come in hordes on wheelchairs, on crutches, and he would give a sermon, and just even from a distance people would get healed. Totally out of the question that he would charge for anything. So today we have this whole industry, this new age movement where we have all these gurus that are trying to charge you for 5 words. 1 hour counseling is $100 or more. This sort of thing, I strongly would suggest you stay away from. These people are not, they're not going to offer you anything long-term value. They're harming themselves. They're tricking themselves. They want to believe that they're helping you, but they're not helping anybody. They're harming themselves even. The thing is that we all in some way are on a spiritual path, and one of the things that we are struggling with, of course, is our need for survival. And yes, we need food, we need shelter, and so these teachers that charge you for stuff, their excuse will be, well, we need to make a living too, so we're gonna, this organization needs funding, so we need to charge X amount to keep the operations going. But what about trust in the universe? Isn't this a part of spiritual life? If you have to charge for everything, it seems like these people don't believe in the principles of cause and effect, that if you really put in some value into the universe, you will get back value. They don't trust the universe to provide for them. Another thing is, well, when you charge, you're picking and choosing who you're offering your services to. Poor people aren't gonna sign up for your spiritual healing. They're not even gonna go to ask you if you offer discounts for those who can't afford it. If they list a certain price on their website or anywhere, people that can't afford it, they're not even gonna inquire. They're not gonna show up. Then some other conflicts that happen when you pay for these services. One thing that happens when you pay for these services, you have a certain expectation of what you will be getting in return. Now, this expectation is an obstacle in this spiritual journey that we're going through. One of the objectives is to surrender. I mean, yes, we're fighting, we could say, with our own defilements, with our problems, with our sins, vices. We're trying to develop our virtues. But we also want to surrender. And when it comes to learning something, we have to have a very open mind. We have to surrender to nature. We have to accept. Acceptance is the first step to healing. We have to accept what we're going through. We have to accept the truth. Accepting the truth is how healing starts. But when we pay somebody, then we expect something in return. We expect that we're going to get this feeling or that feeling or this pleasant sensation. But spirituality is much greater than this temporary healing. Spirituality deals with eternity. It's about coming out of the eternal damnation or eternal sins, or just the vices that are intrinsic as part of being a human. So things like jealousy and anger, addictive personalities, craving, just wanting something, feeling this lack. So all of these things is what we want to be healed from. And it starts by recognizing the truth. We have to accept, this is my condition. And when you start to accept, that is the beginning of the end of craving, the end of anger, the end of these continuous cycles of seeking, getting something. Then on the other hand, when these teachers, these supposed healers, they charge you, they have the incentive to please you in some way. They want to give you something to make it worth your money. But in reality, for real healing to occur, it's not always so pleasant. Sometimes you have to go through some serious pain and misery and suffering. And sometimes you need to be told difficult truths. You need to hear, your problems from an unbiased perspective. Not from a teacher who's has the incentive to tell you all the nice things that you want to hear because they're getting paid for it and they want you to stick around, for more business. So these are just a few of the problems, the negative things. But let's just look now at the positives of not asking for money, not charging. Let's look at this relationship when that is. Let's look at the relationships between people that give and receive without expecting anything in return. The type of relationship there. If somebody offers you something without seeking anything in return, you are that much more likely to feel a gratitude for it. That's some serious, that's true generosity there. They're giving you something um, from their heart. They want to help you. Now it's a different story if you don't want that help. If it's, for example, some proselytizing evangelist who just really wants to convince you a certain dogma, but you really don't want to hear it because you have your own opinion. But the truth is that even in those situations, when you have the proselytizing evangelist trying to convert you, they're doing it from their heart. Most of the time, they're sincere people, they're sincere believers, and they have positive energy to contribute. So when the relationship is one of sincerity, not seeking anything in return, then we have a very wholesome interaction, one that both people can benefit from, the receiver and the giver. In today's society, we're so used to, having to pay for anything. If you want something, you have to pay for it. And we've become desensitized. It's pretty uncommon that somebody is going to give you something, for free. But when it does happen, it has the potential to truly transform people. Like when there's a volunteer who serves at, let's say, a food kitchen, or serves to help abroad, for example, rebuilding homes or in some disaster relief. The people who are being helped, there's so much gratitude from them. And this gratitude is a healing energy. It reestablishes faith in the goodness of humans, which is really something that is so needed in today's societies. We're losing faith in each other. So when it comes to healing, we need to heal our relationships. We need to start doing things because we want to help. It's not that I want to help, but you also gotta help me. No, I want to help because I like that kind of relationship. I like the relationship where I'm giving. I I am happy to be able to be of service. I want to be of service. It makes my life meaningful to be of service. So keeping these things in mind, I want to urge you to remember whenever you go to some new age healing guru or teacher who requires a suggested donation or a certain fee for their healing or for their seminar or for their workshop. And you take this $1,000 workshop and we'll give you this secret mantra and then you will be enlightened. I would recommend you stay away from those places. There are many good places that will never do that, and they will also appreciate it when you just give a sincere donation because you want to give something back, or when you volunteer. There are churches, monasteries all over the place. They will host you, they will give you a place to stay, they will offer you food. They won't ask for anything. This is true for Catholic, Orthodox churches, monasteries, Buddhist monasteries. Now, of course, not all. There are Christian and Buddhist and Hindu places that will charge you ridiculous fees, but there are also good places that run on donations. They depend on the community for generosity. They depend on the community of volunteers, And that's how those places run. And the energy that you will get from those kinds of places is totally different than from somewhere that you have to pay to enter. So I hope you find this video helpful and informative. And if you have some opinions, share them below in the comment section. All right. Have a good day. Till next time.